Hey witches, how you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Taya, and today we're going to continue to work with Sloth for the Witch's Black Lent. Now, I'm not going to talk a whole bunch about Sloth. I've made a playlist. You can go back to the playlist and check out the first 2 or 3 videos, especially in the first couple where I really get a lot into what is the Witch's Black Lent, why are we working with deadly sins, what does it have to do with witchcraft, and the second video where I really get into Sloth and why I chose to work with Sloth as my deadly sin to embrace for Witch's Black Lent. So our challenge this week was to make an oil or an incense for our deadly sin. So I thought, I'm not going to talk more about Sloth. We've done that lots, but let's make an incense blend because I have gotten super into making loose incense. And it was something that I never really understood. I was like, whatever, I'll just buy cones and sticks. And like when you burn stuff, it all just kind of smells like burning, right? Well, it turns out it doesn't. It has some absolutely lovely scents. So we are going to go through a formula that I learned from Lorelei Black at Blade and Broom. She has a fabulous video called Best Loose Incense Formula DIY. I will link it in the description below. So if you want to learn a little bit more about making your own loose incense, please do go check out Lorelei's video. That's where I learned it. I don't claim this formula for myself. I learned it from her. And we will talk about it in a second. So first, let's take a look at how I actually figured out what to put in this incense blend. So what I do is I have a big book of correspondences and I thought, Sloth, what do I want to evoke? What do I want to bring out? Emotional states, that kind of thing for Sloth, to embrace Sloth. So there's quite a few because this isn't spell work, right? In spell work, you need to have a single focus. Personally, in incense, I can kind of play with it a little bit, right? So these are all of the different correspondences that I'm trying to bring in to this incense blend. Ease and relief of anxiety, calm, emotional and inner calm, comfort, dream work, empowerment, grounding, improving moods, fulfilling needs for yourself, nurturing, patience, release. I want to release this this feeling that I must be productive at all times, right? We need to release. We just need to let go of all of that. Relieving stress, self-work, and well-being. So those are all of the correspondences we're going to bring in by working with a bunch of different herbs and oils and resins. So we have, in alphabetical order, dragon's blood, frankincense, jasmine, lavender, pine, rose, vanilla, valerian, wormwood, and yarrow. So what I kind of start doing is I kind of start going through my book and I go, oh, this sounds like a correspondence I'd like to bring in. And I sort of look and see what does it have in its list of plants and herbs and trees that I actually have on hand. And I start just writing them down. And then I go to the next thing I find. I go, okay, what does it have? And you start to see some similarities. And then those are the ones I start kind of picking and pulling out. And I kind of end up creating a chart like this. This is all pretty on Excel, but you could just do it like writing it out. So these are all the different correspondences. And these are the different types of materials we have to work with. And then what are they bringing in? So you can see each one has like multiple X's in each column because each one has multiple correspondences. So it just kind of creates a big mishmash of all these different feelings and hopefully that we're going to evoke with this incense. So that's what I did. And then from there, I kind of work out a formula according to Lorelei's formula, which is flower, F-L-O-W-R. So what you need to have to make a successful loose incense blend is flowers, which are like blossoms, berries, fruit, leaves from trees, bushes, plants. So like plant material, but not necessarily flowers, right? Oil, you use essential oils, you could use fragrance oils, you can use blended oils, whatever. Woods, So that would be like, there's quite a bit in that category. So bark, pith, roots, nuts, acorns, seed pods, a lot of different things you can use there for woods. And finally, resins, which would be resins or like dried sap, right? So flower, F-L-O-W-R. And again, go check out Lorelai's video, Best Loose Incense Formula DIY, linked in the description below if you want to learn a little bit more about that. So what I decided going through was, for most things, I have a ton of this in oil. So I could have made like an anointing oil sort of with it, some type of oil to use, but I'm like, I don't really use oil a lot. So I thought, let's play with incense. And also it'll give me a chance to talk to you guys about incense, which I love. So the formula I came up with, and I can put it in the description below for you, is 2 tablespoons of lavender, 2 tablespoons of rose, 1 tablespoon of wormwood, 1 tablespoon of jasmine, 2 teaspoons of yarrow, 4 drops each of valerian, frankincense, and vanilla. But I've decided, since not to use vanilla oil, I'm going to use vanilla bean to bring in a little bit more of the woods category. This is very flowery heavy, which burn very quickly, right? So you need some things in there that are going to burn a little bit more slowly. So I'm actually going to use a vanilla pod, like a vanilla bean. 1 tablespoon of pine needles, 1 tablespoon of pine bark, and 2 teaspoons of dragon's blood resin. So I think this should be interesting. So I'm going to tilt you down now so that you can kind of see the work as we go through and actually create this incense blend, and then we'll burn a little bit. I've got a charcoal disc burning already. So we'll make this up and then we'll have some fun. Okay. All right, so the first thing that we're going to need is a container to put our incense in. Typically I recommend glass, and unfortunately I had saved these containers thinking they were glass and they are plastic. I'm gonna go ahead and use it for this incense because I will probably use this incense up within the week. But if I was making a long-term incense that contains essential oils, I would not be storing it in plastic. Essential oils kind of eat away at plastic, and then you're getting a little bit of plastic in your incense blend and destroying the container. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make this in this container here. So the first thing we need is 2 tablespoons of lavender. Yes, and I've got my lavender here. It's not in a jar. I just picked it up the other day and I haven't had a chance. So we'll put in 2 tablespoons of lavender. Tip, if you're looking for lavender on the cheap, buy it at like the bulk food store. Like we have one in Canada, I think you have it in the States, called Bulk Barn. Right, lavender's edible. People use it to decorate cakes. Great way to get it for like super cheap. Next is 2 tablespoons of rose. So I have these I dry these rose blossoms whole, and then I just go ahead and pull them off their little thing, which is 1 rose is just about a tablespoon, so 3 of these should do. 1, 2, and I'm kind of smushing them up a little as we go, right? You don't want anything that's too big and chunky in here. Just make sure we've kind of put them all apart. Okay, so we've got 2 tablespoons of rose. Next is 1 tablespoon of wormwood. So I have like a tiny little container here of wormwood. 1 tablespoon of wormwood. You can see different things. So like 2 tablespoons of lavender is a lot of lavender compared to 2 tablespoons of rose petals, right? Because rose petals are kind of big and fluffy and lavender is tiny little condensed bits. So that's something else to consider when you're putting together. Like right now I'm going, oh, should have put more rose in. A tablespoon of wormwood, a tablespoon of jasmine. I can taste the wormwood. Okay, a tablespoon of jasmine. All right. And then next we need 2 teaspoons of yarrow. The yarrow here, this is actually from my local area. That's about 1, but I'm gonna break those up just a little bit. So we'll do another one, which is like 2 right there. And I love yarrow. It's like super magical. And you know what? I'm going to break up all these little stems and put them in here too. Just a little, add a little extra like woodsiness to the formula. And now that I'm seeing it, I'm like, yep, I want a little bit more yarrow. Okay, there we go. Yarrow. Now I've got 4 drops each of Valerian and frankincense. So we'll start with the frankincense. 4, it'll probably end at 5 drops just because I can never pull it up on the right one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. Yeah. Recipes are just a suggested ratio, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm gonna definitely stick with 4 in the Valerian. It's a little stinkier. I love it. To me, it smells very piney, but in, oh, don't mind my dog growling. But to Luna, it smells very piney. So yeah, Valerian smells a little bit like dirty feet to some people, but to me, it's quite piney. So the next ingredient, rather than vanilla oil, is going to be vanilla bean. Sorry, I just smacked my dog. She's been barking and barking and barking. And I just put her on her leash and tied her to my chair so she's not running up and barking at the window. On account of it being the weekend, it's kind of busy out there and, well, she gets excited, you know? So yeah, we're just cutting up little tiny chunks of vanilla bean, which smells so good. We'll just cut up all these little teeny pieces. Sorry, I should have had some of this done before I started the video, but I didn't decide to make the substitution for the oil until the very last minute. And I thought, yep, this is just gonna add a little extra of that longer burning stuff. So just lots of little teensy pieces of vanilla bean. And then when this is done, we are gonna move on. I've already gone and gotten, so the other substitution I'm gonna make is, rather than pine needles, which I don't have on hand, I'm gonna use spruce needles, which aren't exactly a 1-for-1 swap out for pine, but they're pretty close. So I have these lovely dried spruce needles. I literally just ran out in my backyard and picked them. So I'm just gonna add these in here. I had said about a tablespoon, so it'll be a little bit more, but that's okay. Half of it's like flying out on the table as I cut it. Right, but that'll add a little bit of that lovely pine scent. And then finally, oh, look at it all. We have 2 things left to add, both of which I have in mortar and pestle. So the first one is the bark. This is Scots pine bark. And so typically what I'll do is I pick it off the tree. I take it off the tree when it looks itchy. That's my rule for bark. If it looks itchy, it's fair game. So I'm gonna add that in. That is about a tablespoon, maybe just over a tablespoon of bark. Sorry, I'm gonna bang here. So that's the bark. And then I also have some dragon's blood resin, which comes like kind of in big chunks like this. They're quite large, so I will go and sort of break them down in my mortar and pestle, because a little bit goes a long way with dragon's blood. So that is the whole recipe. We're gonna shake it up. Oh, you guys, it smells like sloth. It's amazing. So I have this here. Let's see if I can touch the side. Yeah, it's got, you can see it's like gray, this charcoal. And so we're gonna go ahead and sprinkle some of this loose incense right on here. Look at that smoke. Isn't that amazing? And it smells lovely too. It's kind of got a very like earthy smell to it. The one thing about loose incense on a charcoal disc is that it makes a lot of smoke. So sometimes it's not the best for burning indoors, I tend to use it more outdoors during ritual. Indoors, I tend to use like cones and sticks because they just aren't so smoky. And sometimes you can get a kind of an off smell from the charcoal tablet that you burn it on. I do have an electric burner that I could use for this, but I thought it's so pretty with all the smoke. So friends, what do you think? That is our video on making your own loose incense with the theme of sloth. I will put the recipe in the description below if you want to give it a try. I love loose incense, and this actually smells really good. And I would almost say sloth-like. So that's our video for today. I'd love to know what you think. Do you make your own loose incenses? Is that something you've gotten into? Have you ever tried it? Why? Why not? Yeah, if you use loose incense, what's your favorite? Do you buy it? Do you make it? I'd love to know. Yeah, drop us some comments. And otherwise, yeah, that's our video for today. Thanks so much, you guys.